Most people train hard for years and still don't look strong. They show up consistently and push themselves, but their body barely changes. Others chase strength and keep adding weight over time, but their physique never really matches the numbers they lift. So eventually they start believing something is wrong. They assume there are two completely different paths. One path builds muscle size, and the other builds real strength. And they think they have to choose between them. Either look strong or actually be strong. That's the belief that keeps them stuck for years. But that idea is completely wrong, and it's exactly why most people never reach their full potential. Because size and strength don't come from separate systems. They are built from the exact same foundation. Most people split training into two separate worlds. One is for building muscle, and one is for building strength. They think higher reps are for size, and heavy weight is only for strength. So they constantly switch between methods. They change programs, adjust rep ranges, and keep restarting the process. But your body doesn't work like that. Your muscles don't recognize hypertrophy mode or strength mode. They only respond to one thing: how much tension they are forced to handle under load. That's the part most people completely miss. They focus on methods instead of the actual mechanism. And once you misunderstand the mechanism, everything becomes inefficient. You end up working hard, but not in the way that produces real results. That's why you feel stuck, even though you're doing everything right. Everything starts with one thing. Mechanical tension is the primary driver of both muscle size and strength. It's not soreness, and it's not how tired you feel. Your muscles only respond to how much force they are required to produce. When you lift a weight, your muscle fibers generate tension to move it. The higher the demand, the more fibers are forced to engage. That tension is what triggers adaptation. It tells your body that the current capacity is no longer enough. Without enough tension, there is no signal to grow. And without that signal, nothing changes, no matter how hard you train. This is why effort alone is not enough. You can feel exhausted and still fail to create effective tension. And this is the shift most people need to make. Stop chasing fatigue and start focusing on tension. Your body doesn't use all your muscle fibers at once. It recruits them based on how difficult the task is. When the weight feels easy, only a small portion of fibers are activated. Your body has no reason to use more than it needs. As the difficulty increases, more fibers are recruited. And as you get closer to failure, your body is forced to use almost all available fibers. This includes the high-threshold motor units. These are the fibers with the greatest potential for size and strength. If you stop too early, those fibers never get activated. And if they're not activated, they're not going to grow. That's why light effort produces limited results. It simply doesn't demand enough from your system. But when you train close to failure, recruitment increases dramatically. And that's where real progress begins. To fully recruit your muscle fibers, you need to train close to failure. That's the point where your body has no choice but to activate everything it has. This doesn't mean you have to reach absolute failure every time, but you need to get close enough that the last reps become truly challenging. If a set feels easy, you're not creating enough demand, and without that demand, recruitment stays low. But there's a balance you need to respect. Going too far into failure creates excessive fatigue that carries into your next sets. That fatigue reduces your ability to produce force, and when force drops, tension drops with it. So the goal is not to destroy yourself, it's to push close enough to maximize recruitment without killing performance. That's where the most efficient stimulus happens. And that's what drives both size and strength forward. Muscles don't produce the same tension at every length. They experience more total stress when trained in a stretched position. At longer muscle lengths, passive tension adds to active tension. That combination increases the total mechanical load on the fibers. More total tension means a stronger signal for growth, and that makes stretched positions especially effective for hypertrophy. This is why exercises that load the muscle deeply tend to produce better results. The fibers are under higher strain for longer periods. For example, deep squats place the quads under stretch at the bottom, and incline curls load the biceps more in their lengthened position. If you only train in shortened ranges, you miss this effect, and that limits both your growth and your strength development. So the stretch is not just about range of motion. It's where the most effective tension is created. Not all hard training creates the same results. Some effort builds muscle, while some effort just creates fatigue. The difference comes down to stimulus versus fatigue. Stimulus is the effective tension that drives growth, while fatigue is the cost your body has to recover from. A good set creates high stimulus with manageable fatigue. A bad set creates a lot of fatigue without enough meaningful tension. When fatigue builds too quickly, your performance starts to drop, and once performance drops, your ability to produce tension goes down. That means later sets become less effective. You're still working hard, but the quality of the stimulus is decreasing. This is why more effort is not always better. If fatigue gets too high, it actually limits your progress instead of driving it. So the goal is not to feel destroyed after training. It's to maximize stimulus while controlling fatigue. Fatigue comes in different forms. Local fatigue builds inside the muscle. Systemic fatigue affects your whole body. Neural fatigue limits force output. As fatigue accumulates, output drops. And when output drops, tension drops. You work harder but get less from it. Manage fatigue. Don't chase it. Too much fatigue directly limits growth and strength. Not all exercises are equally effective. Some allow you to apply high tension to the target muscle, while others limit your output. The best exercises are stable and controlled. Stability allows you to produce more force and direct that force into the muscle you're trying to train. For example, a barbell row provides high stability and lets you generate strong force. Compared to less stable variations, your output is more consistent. A machine chest press is another example. It removes balance demands and lets you focus purely on pushing with the chest. When stability drops, force production drops with it. And when force drops, muscle fiber recruitment decreases. That means the exercise becomes less effective, even if it feels harder. Difficulty is not the same as effectiveness. So the goal is not to pick the hardest-looking movement. It's to choose the one that allows the highest tension on the target muscle. The lowering phase is where effective tension happens. During the eccentric, the muscle lengthens under load, maintaining high tension with lower neural cost. Rushing the eccentric loses tension. Controlled lowering improves stability and force production on the next rep. Slow down the lowering phase. Control turns effort into results. Your body only adapts when the demand increases over time. If nothing changes, your body has no reason to grow or get stronger. Progression can come from adding weight, adding reps, or improving how much tension you create. But something has to move forward. A simple rule is to increase the load by about 2.5 to 5% once you can complete all your reps with good form. That ensures the stimulus keeps increasing. If you're not ready to add weight, add 1 or 2 reps instead. Then once you reach the top of your rep range, increase the load again. This creates a clear progression cycle. You build up within a range, then raise the demand and repeat the process. Without progression, your training becomes maintenance, and maintenance will never build new size or strength. So track your performance and push it forward consistently, because progress is what drives adaptation. Training volume can increase muscle growth, but only if your body can recover from it. More sets only work when they still produce high-quality tension. As volume increases, fatigue also increases. And once fatigue gets too high, your performance starts to drop. When performance drops, your ability to produce force goes down. And that means each set becomes less effective. At that point, you're adding work, but not adding stimulus. This is what people call junk volume. On the other hand, too little volume doesn't provide enough stimulus to drive adaptation. So there's a balance you need to find. The goal is not to do as much as possible. It's to do enough high-quality work that you can recover from and repeat. That balance is what allows consistent progress. And consistency is what builds both size and strength over time. Rest between sets directly affects your performance. And performance is what determines how much tension you can produce. If you rest too little, your strength drops in the next set. And when strength drops, the quality of your stimulus drops as well. For strength training, longer rest is necessary. Typically around 3 to 5 minutes allows full recovery of force output. For hypertrophy, slightly shorter rest works well. Around 2 to 3 minutes is enough to maintain good performance while keeping efficiency. Short rest might feel harder, but it reduces your ability to produce force. That means you're getting less from each set. Less rest does not make you tougher. It just limits your output and reduces the effectiveness of your training. So don't rush your rest periods, because rest is what allows you to perform at a high level again. Training to failure can increase muscle activation, but it also creates a high level of fatigue that can carry into your next sets. When fatigue builds too quickly, your performance drops. And once performance drops, the quality of your stimulus drops with it. That's why going to failure on every set is a mistake. It limits how much high-quality work you can actually perform. A better approach is to use failure selectively. Save it for the last set of an exercise, or for isolation movements where fatigue is more localized. Avoid taking heavy compound lifts to failure early in the workout. That creates too much systemic fatigue and reduces total output. By controlling when you use failure, you manage fatigue more effectively, and that allows you to maintain higher performance across the session. Failure is a tool, not a default setting. Use it with purpose, not out of habit. One workout does not build muscle. Progress comes from repeating high-quality training over time. Each session creates a small amount of stimulus, and that stimulus only matters if you can recover and repeat it again. This creates a cycle. You train, you recover, and then you apply tension again at a slightly higher level. Over time, these cycles start to accumulate, and that accumulation is what leads to visible size and real strength. If your training is inconsistent, the cycle breaks, and once it breaks, progress slows down or stops completely. This is why extreme effort doesn't work long-term. What matters is consistent, repeatable output. Muscle is built through repetition of quality, not through random bursts of intensity. To build both muscle size and real strength, you don't need separate systems. You need to apply the same core principles correctly and consistently. Train close to failure so you can recruit the fibers that actually grow. Use exercises that are stable and allow you to produce high levels of tension. Prioritize full range and stretched positions where tension is highest. Control your reps so you maintain that tension instead of losing it. Manage fatigue so your performance stays high across sets and sessions. Progress your load or reps over time so the stimulus keeps increasing. Give your body enough rest so it can recover and perform again. Without recovery, you can't repeat the process effectively. When all of these pieces come together, your training becomes efficient. And efficiency is what drives long-term results. Most people think they need to choose between size and strength. But that belief is what keeps them from building either effectively. When you understand how muscle actually adapts, the confusion disappears. Both size and strength come from applying high tension and repeating it consistently. You don't need separate systems or complicated strategies. You just need to apply the right principles with precision. When you train this way, strength increases naturally. And as strength increases, your muscles are forced to grow. At the same time, as your muscles grow, your ability to produce force improves, and that feeds back into your strength. So the two are not competing goals. They are reinforcing outcomes of the same process. Once you understand that, your training becomes simple. And when it becomes simple, it finally starts to work. At the beginning, it looked like you had to choose between size and strength, and that belief is what kept you stuck. You thought you needed different programs and different methods, but in reality, you were just missing the core system behind it. Once you understand how tension, recruitment, and fatigue actually work, everything becomes clear. You stop guessing and start training with purpose. You don't need more effort or more complexity. You need better execution of the principles that actually drive adaptation. Because when you apply those principles correctly, progress becomes predictable. And when progress becomes predictable, results finally show. So you were never supposed to choose between size and strength. You were supposed to understand the system that builds both. You were never stuck because you lacked effort. You were stuck because you didn't understand the system.